You're still watching Prime Morning. Of course, the newspapers have a lot they are reporting, and we also have topics that we'll be discussing due to certain conversations that took place yesterday into this early morning. My guests are seated, and representing the NDC this morning is E.A. Metal Nunu Jr. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm doing well.
Great, and thank you so much. You're looking nice, I must say. Are you going to court today?
Yeah.
Okay, you look really nice. I like the outfits. On point, please be dressed like this often. We like that. Representing the NPP is Dr. Ezekiel Ejikubo Obeng. Good morning, Doc.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I was great.
Did you bring any syringe? A lot in your car?
No problem.
So you're going to inject us, eh?
Whatever.
Welcome, though. Anyway, so we have topics that we'll be delving into this morning. I'll quickly brief you on some of the topics that we are going to be discussing. Hopefully, we'll be able to exhaust all, but if we are not, we exhaust majority of them. Honorable Gyakye Quayson, who is the MP for Assin North, has spoken, saying that he has trust in the judiciary system. Of course, knowing that E.A. Metal Nunu Jr. is a part of the judiciary system in Ghana here, he might have a lot to say about it. But, Mr. Gyakye Quayson has spoken, Honorable Gyakye Quayson has spoken that he has trust that definitely at the end of the day, he'll be exonerated. And then also, we know that government has paid or is committed to paying the DDEP finally. The first transaction will be going out very soon, and so those who first money have to be paid will be paid, and government says they are committed to doing that. Also, Sunyani onion sellers have spoken. They are not too happy about the increment in prices of onion. A bag used to be 1,000 Ghana cedis. Currently, a bag is being sold at 1,800 Ghana cedis. They are struggling. They really want government to do something about it by opening the Niger border so that the prices will be dropped. We'll try and exhaust all these topics. But let me start off with the very first newspaper, the Business Finder newspaper. The Business Finder reads, FDIs must be mutually beneficial. GIPC boss tells captains of industry. We'll continue to keep our airports safe, offer pleasant travel experience. And this is in regards to the Tamale Airport that was commissioned yesterday, which is the phase 2. We know there's already a phase 1, and this is the phase 2, which was commissioned by the NPP government. The phase 1 was actually commissioned by the phase 2. The Daily Guide the phase 2 was commissioned by the NPP and the phase 1 was commissioned by the NDC. The Daily Guide newspaper, 7 fights for 2 slots in NPP super delegates confirm. ECG sacks 11 top officials. Duka opens workshop for small-scale miners. NDC MPs, please agree on BOG protest, and I don't fear prison, says Gyakye Quayson. The New Crusading Guide. I am not scared of going to jail, Gyakye Quayson has spoken. Let's support Brian Champon to deliver, Doma East MP says so. We are not your subject, Adwejuri resident to Ochehene. FDA earns designation as Regional Center of Excellence for Vaccines Regulatory Oversight in Africa. This is a win for Ghana. Government to commission automated premix fuel distribution project at Elmina on August 29th. 2023. Our final newspaper is the Daily Graphic newspaper. WASI written papers begin with oral English, exam for Ghana only. Super Delegates Conference, NPP aspirants justify inclusion on Saturday. And we know that they are super ready for this. But let's start off our conversation with Gyakye Quayson, Honorable Gyakye Quayson, saying that he has trust in the judiciary. E.A. Metal Nunu, I'll start this with you.
Yeah, good morning, Rosalind. And good morning to your cherished viewers and the entire team. The Gyakye Quayson case, for him saying that he has trust in the judiciary, is a mark of good faith, because in any democratic country, when there is conflict between ordinary citizens, between any of the arms of government, the last place of resort to go to get the issue addressed is the judiciary. So if it happens that we as citizens or members of parliament or the executive, that we denigrate and dent the image of the judiciary, then we are denting the backbone of the country. Because if nobody has trust in the judiciary, and people have conflict, you can just imagine what's going to happen. They will take the law into their own hands and then do as they please. So despite the fact that the courts or the judicial process leading to the Gyakye Quayson's case, starting right from his hometown, the registrar wasn't in court, the daily trial and all that, I listened closely to the interview he granted on your one of the media houses.
Yeah, and it was on City.
On City, yes. Yeah. I listened closely to it, and I was happy he made a statement, because initially when I saw the flyer, I was thinking that the case is still in court, and I hope his lawyers have guided him well not to go and make any prejudicial comments. That's why even this morning I'm careful not to delve into the main issues, just to talk on the surface.
Let me briefly read what he said.
Yeah.
He said, I believe in the justice system. The fundamental thing about any judicial matter is that the person intended to commit that crime. Did he plan it? I have not planned anything of such. My stronger conviction is that this is just a matter of time. When you believe you have done the right thing, you shouldn't be afraid. I trust the court will deliver a very positive verdict. I trust my lawyers. I trust the conscience of the people. You
see, the trial of Gyakye Quayson in two folds. There's a civil trial that's ended, and now the criminal one. So the criminal one is found liable. He's going to be convicted of that crime. I think perjury and forgery. Now, for anybody to be convicted of a criminal offense, then there are two key things that must come to play. Anybody who, even the media, think they should know. There's the actus reus, that's the act of the person, and then the mens rea, that's the intent of the person. So when these two coincide, then you can say that the person is liable of that criminal offense. So for example, when you talk about stealing, and then the intent of the person wasn't actually to take possession of the thing away, but the act, you can see that the person took the thing. Maybe this phone belongs to you, and then Kwame enters here, picks the phone, and then drops it down there. Maybe his intent was that there's water dropping here. So even though he has picked the phone out, his intent was not to steal it. So when you clearly look at it in the court of law, because the intent wasn't to take it and take it to belong to himself, the mens rea did not coincide. When you look at the Gyakye Quayson's case, you see the time that he renounced his Canadian citizenship. But then because of COVID, and we all know what happened, and they are saying that the certificate did not come on time at the time that he picked forms to contest for the elections. So if you look at the intent, clearly he did not have the intention of committing a crime against the laws of Ghana in that form. He did not have the intent of giving false statements to the public officer as well, because clearly he had renounced, but because of COVID and everything, the Canadian, there was a delay. So his intent is not there. So listening to it, depending on how his lawyers argue the case out in court, and to convict somebody of a criminal liability, you should prove beyond reasonable doubt. It should be about 99.9, because when the person is convicted, you are taking the freedom of the person away from the person. So I was happy when he made a statement that he has confidence in the judiciary. In fact, everybody should have confidence in the judiciary. It's not always that we take cases to court that might go in our favor. That is why there's a redress system. So if you go to the circuit court and you are not happy, you go to the next higher court, you go for an appeal till you get to the Supreme Court. And even at the Supreme Court, you can apply for a review where additional Supreme Court judges will sit on the case to review the issue. So I'm happy he has confidence in the judiciary. And we all hope that it goes well for him. But
fingers crossed. Most of the papers are reporting. We'll talk about that because it's also here, so I'll bring it in. But let me take Ezekiel's opinion on it as well.
Good morning once again.
Good morning.
And to our cherished viewers. So yes, as brother already intimated, we are happy the Honorable Gyakye Quayson is finally spoken and having confidence in the judiciary. That's what we should all aspire for, to not bastardize the judiciary, as my brother already said.
Please speak up a bit for me.
The last backbone, the backbone of our country, that place we seek redress, to ask for opinions, for judgment, to know the way forward on issues. And I'm quite happy coming from an NDC MP. At least for once, we are not hearing unanimous FC. We are not hearing Parliament, NDC side, bringing out in the media, trying to bastardize the judiciary, as we've seen from 2016 coming. So yes, it clearly shows that the judiciary is impartial. per the comment the Honorable passed, it clearly shows the judiciary is impartial. I mean, I can't go into the nitty-gritty. First of all, I'm not a lawyer. Secondly, the case is pending in court. My brother has given his side, coming from the legal background, as to whether the renouncement of his citizenship was actually true and true done. He's spoken about the fact that he did the renouncement, except the response from the Canadian people did not come in time. I don't know if that constitutes renouncement, but of course it's up to the court to determine or make such determination. But one key thing, he has said in no uncertain terms that he has confidence in the judiciary, and that's what we all need to have, such confidence. And I'm just waiting that at the end of the day, we all hope and pray that no one's freedom is curtailed or taken away from such person. But should judgment not go in favor of the Honorable, we all know what the NDC can do. We all know the narrative will change. We all know they'll start singing the victimization song. We all know they'll start calling the judiciary a unanimous FC, as we've heard in the past. But of course,
well, he has spoken that he's actually not scared of going to jail. This is what he said. You get your dual citizenship through the Ministry of Interior, where you bring your Canadian passport and that of a Ghanaian passport. And then they give you a green certificate, which is your dual citizenship. From 2009 till the time I became just solely a Ghanaian, I was traveling from Ghana to Canada without a visa. The Ghanaian authorities recognize me as a dual citizen person. So how can the same person be applying for or renewing his passport, and you say I don't have any other nationality? It doesn't make sense unless they also don't check their own records. So I don't fear going to jail at all.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, the legalities and otherwise of the matter, as I've already said, should be determined by the court. And clearly he stated he's not afraid going to court, going to jail. He's trying to, in a way.
Well, I think he's trying to rather say that to him he's innocent. To him, whatever he actually didn't, he wasn't applying for a renewal of his passport. That's what he's saying.
Per the basic
law, per what he's saying.
Per the basic law we've all come to learn, everyone is innocent until proven guilty by a
No, I'm just using his words. Okay, everybody. I know, I understand that everybody is proven, everybody's innocent. But per his words, he says that he's not scared of going to jail because, again, he's saying that he had a dual citizenship. And it was given to him by the Interior Ministry. He was able to travel. So it means that he was not even applying to renew his Canadian citizenship as being told. So how is it that same person is being told that you were trying to renew your Canadian passport? So he feels because of that, he's not wrong.
It's purely a matter of determination by the court. So the court will deal with that. Like my last statement, we hope that at the end of the day, if the unfortunate happens to him, the NDC will not come back. Because this same person has told us he's competent, he has much confidence in the court systems. So yes, if judgment of guilty comes in, we hope the NDC doesn't come out to do their usual PR gimmicks.
You won't come out to do your usual PR gimmicks?
Oh no, we won't. And on this matter, since it's still in court, as a person within the system, you can't speak much because you still appear before them. So the court will decide, and I'm hopeful that the words of Gyakye Quayson saying that he has confidence in the judiciary and is innocent, it comes to play at the end of the day. We have full belief in the judiciary system, and we know that at the end of the day they'll do what is just and what the people of this country are looking out for. So let's leave it to the court. Let's see how the matter goes.
But when he was in the what's the other court? What's it called? The court before this one. Help me out. You are in the judiciary.
For which of them?
We go the civil court. Thank you. When he was in the civil court, he was found guilty though.
So
if he was found guilty, I just want to know, is there any new development? Has he been able to have any new proofs to back him where in Supreme Court he might be exonerated?
No, in civil cases, you are found, it's judged based on simple probability. You don't need to prove beyond reasonable doubt. But with criminal cases, because at the end of the day, the freedom of the person will be curtailed, you need to prove beyond reasonable doubt. And in criminal cases, you need to make sure that the action of the person and the intent of the person coincide, which means that he planned or he did a thing and he had the intention of doing that particular thing you are charging him of doing. That is why sometimes somebody can mistakenly, you can be holding a knife and mistakenly somebody calls you a 10 and then you just pierce the person with a knife and you'll not be charged for murder. You'll be charged for manslaughter. You've killed the person, all right, but then the argument your lawyers are going to raise is that it was unintentional. The intent wasn't there, but the action really happened. You pierce the person with it, so you'll be found convicted for manslaughter. So in criminal cases, we are careful with it.
But you have been following this case. Has there been any new developments so far?
Well, there's been developments, and I think some of them, Gyakye Quayson himself mentioned it in his interview. One of them was that, you know, sometimes when you need to move motions and applications in court, you need to come by a written application. But it was just an oral application by the Attorney General that it should be a daily trial. So initially, if you listen to his comments, he said that he never believed that the judiciary could be in bed with the executive, but that made him believe. However, he must give some credit to the trial judge, because now I think he doesn't go to court on a daily basis now, so he must give credit to the trial judge, and that is where he made a statement that he has confidence in the judiciary. I think that the way things are turning out in court, that makes him have confidence. And the lawyer for Gyakye Quayson, the lead counsel, Senior Chachuchikata, has also punched a lot of holes in the argument of the Attorney General. So I think that at the end of the day, the court will decide what is best for all of us.
It's looking good, is that what you're saying?
The court will decide what is best. As to whether it's looking good or bad,
you can't really speak about it. Okay, so let's move on to our next conversation. Government is determined and poised to pay the very, very first DDEP monies, of course. We know that the monies are in, and government says they are really ready to pay it. And let me read a little bit about it for those of you who don't know much about what government is going to do. Now, the government is poised to pay 2.4 billion of the first coupon payment on bonds occasioned by the DDEP on August 27th and August 28th. Good news, isn't it?
Very, very positive.
So for the coupons that's maturing 27th, that's a Sunday, and Monday 28th, government is poised to pay, and the monies is worth 2.4 billion Ghana cedis. So coupon holders who have been crying, who says that your monies have been, held for a while, you are struggling to survive, government is finally going to pay this money. Ezekiel?
It's a very positive news to everyone. The tension that's arisen from the DDEP was quite top-notch. The discussions we've had around it as well. And finally, I believe we've seen some positivity coming out of it. And I believe this will calm nerves, and this will boost individual and institutional confidence. This will also boost investor confidence that, yes, of course, we had problems with our economy, and government had to push, in quotes, a bitter pill down the throats of individuals and institutions. But finally, government, as committed as it is, has given the green light for the first tranche of money to be paid to people and institutions who are due. So yes, we will have to welcome it and hope that on Monday, when people step into their banks with their coupons, their monies will be readily available for their use. And I believe going forward, or moving forward, government would also try to honor its part of the bargain. We once again empathize and sympathize with everyone affected by this arrangement. But of course, it's all for the benefit of the country and our future as a people. So yes, the Deputy Minister rightly stated, and I'm very much happy. This news at least gives investor confidence that, of course, everyone is welcome to do business in the country. Your monies are not going to be locked up. Governments had some difficulties which have been resolved, and obviously the future looks very bright for individuals.
But your monies were locked up, but future, it won't lock up again.
It won't lock. Your money is temporarily secured, temporarily secured, and spread over a period. Otherwise, not so much of a good news. But of course, we all need to come together to making sure that our economy is on track. Hence, the decision by government as part of the IMF conditionalities to get the IMF program underway. So yes, it's quite a positive news, and everyone should embrace it and continue to encourage government to do its part of the bargain, and also plead with individuals and institutions to have the patience and belief in the government of the day.
It's not easy to say, acting it. It's easy to say have the patience, but for those whose monies have been locked up for so long, this is what they were dependent on, and this is not, initially, they were told we were going to pay, it didn't happen, told you be paid, it didn't happen. I'm happy that government says that, and government has finally given a date, and we are hoping that this time round it will be delivered. We know 27, 28, Sunday, Monday, but we hope that a new story will not emerge.
We have so much confidence in the government, and I don't think after coming out boldly this time around, giving a specific figure close to a 2.4 billion.
Because previously the only difference was they didn't give a figure.
This time
but
around,
they gave a timeline.
They're giving a figure. Okay. So yes, we all know. At least we'll come here next week, and it will be a different story. One that will come there, one that will bring the tempers down, one that will boost people's confidence and industry's confidence in the government and our economy as well.
Okay.
Rosalie, this is the height of mediocrity and insensitivity on the part of government. For a government that steals from you, a government that takes something from you, and then the government turns back after starving you when you needed what agreement you went into with them the most, and then they come back and tell you that after several timelines they've given you to pay your coupons, to pay the monies owed you, your own money that you've given to government of Ghana, and they come back and they tell you, and then it becomes news, and Deputy Minister is broadcasting it for what? You know the number of lives that have been lost because of the fact that they've not gotten their coupons. Look at the number of our mothers and our fathers who had to go and picket on several locations at the forecourt of the Ministry of Finance. And let's not forget that whatever is happening to us today is not a result of any IMF conditionality or anything. It's because of the recklessness and insensitivity on the part of the MPP, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo administration.
But
we are in this domestic.
But IMF also said that we have to go to DDEP.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That I'm coming. I'm landed. Okay. We are in this DDEP because of reckless borrowing. We've borrowed to the extent that we've become insolvent and we cannot pay off our debts, and that is why we had to go to the IMF. And all the indicators, the World Bank, the country director to Ghana, Pierre Laporte, John Dramani Mahama, several economists, Kojo Mpieni, others, told the government on several occasions that the way they are borrowing, they are going to lead the economy of this country into trenches. And truly, lo and behold, and initially they even told him, the finance minister and the government, that they should go to the IMF walking. Else if they're not careful, they'll end up going to the IMF on a wheelchair. And indeed, we went to the IMF on a wheelchair. And you come back and tell us, after you've borrowed so much that we cannot see what exactly you've done with the money. This NPP administration, don't let us forget that they are one of the administrations in the Fourth Republic that have borrowed more than any other government. They are the same administration in the Fourth Republic that have gotten revenue more than any other government.
But they will also
and they've given taxes more than any other government.
They will also say that, under every government, we have never experienced COVID. Under every government, we have never experienced anything like the Russia-Ukraine war.
Even the death of Queen Elizabeth, we've never experienced anything like that under any government. Any government, we've not experienced the crisis. Do you understand? Now the COVID
was a world.
The COVID argument.
Pandemic.
Yes, the COVID
Talking about Russia-Ukraine war, we all know how it also affected the world.
Yes.
Niger might be affecting ECOWAS a bit, but we know the biggest ones are COVID and Russia.
I want to cushion them more, because any external shock that happens in this world, the MPP come and tell us that because of the external circumstances, it affected their economy. We are going in this IMF and this DDEP solely because of the reckless borrowing of the MPP in the Nado administration. Let's not forget. The COVID that you talk about, that COVID was a curse. COVID was a blessing in disguise. If COVID wasn't a blessing in disguise, the COVID monies that came, I mean to date, when you buy things from the supermarkets, when you buy fuel, etc., and you look at the bill, you see that they're still taxing you COVID-19 levy. What exactly are they doing with the money? We saw the MPP Vice Regional Chairman for Upper East, also the parliamentary candidate, clearly on tape saying that she did not touch her COVID money. She gave it to a constituency. This is what they did with our COVID money. They shared the COVID money amongst party apparatchiks. The domestic debt exchange and the excessive borrowing. They should tell us exactly what they've done. The Bank of Ghana, the 16 million loss of Bank of Ghana alone, John Dramani Mahama in 4 years borrowed 60 billion. John Dramani Mahama in 4 years borrowed 54.
Let's add a
54.
60 billion Ghana cedis.
John Dramani Mahama in 4 years borrowed 54 billion Ghana cedis. Out of the 54 billion Ghana cedis John Dramani Mahama borrowed, you could see the number of cheap compounds that he built. You could see Terminal 3. You could see the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, Maritime Hospital, etc. Bank of Ghana Hospital, etc. 60 billion that's lost from Bank of Ghana. COVID-19, look at the money she brought and look at how they share the money. Domestic debt exchange, you borrowed money more than any other government with nothing to show. And then you starve the people. I do not even trust the 27, 28 days they are given. This time around, because the pressure is mounting upon them, they've added a figure that they are going to disburse 2.4 billion. They are going to disburse 2.4 billion to give the people hope. Look at the people who have suffered. And it's insensitivity. Even if you don't fear God, if you don't fear God, if you want to even touch people's money, you want to steal money, you take monies that belong to pension holders. And you know, one of the reasons why the NPP, the Nana Addo Bawumia administration, continued to borrow and borrow and borrow and borrow was that the financial advisors to the government and the Minister of Finance, when they were borrowing, were the data bank.
You don't have proof to that.
Oh, there's their documents. They themselves have come.
No, I'm saying that
the Minister of Finance,
we know that they are the intermediary. Yes. We know that they are supposed to be the people, the transaction advisors. Yes. We know.
Yes.
But that's not the reason why they are borrowing.
And I'm telling you that based on all circumstantial evidences on the table.
So the borrowing cannot be because we are trying to build the economy. The borrowing cannot be because we went into an economic crisis that we needed to bounce back. Does it always have to be just because there is an intermediary and that intermediary person or that intermediary is co-owned by your finance minister?
Before COVID-19, when the COVID-19 struck, somewhere March 2021 went to a lockdown. Let's look at the economic indicators. Before the March 2021, inflation was skyrocketing. The interest rates was 2020. Inflation was skyrocketing. Interest rate was skyrocketing. Before that particular time, we had borrowed the borrowing rate of the government was already skyrocketing. Do you understand? So if the NPP say that it was because of COVID-19 that led us to all these things, let's look at the economic indicators. Fuel prices were up. The cedi to the dollar. The cedi kept on depreciating against the dollar. So even the economic indicators, looking at them before 2021 went into a lockdown, we're looking bad already. So they cannot tell us that the economy was on the right track to build. They're building the economy before that particular thing happened. Before that, there were a lot of corrupt scandals. There was PDS, there was Japan, etc. So the NPP administration have failed woefully.
Japan had not been
passed. I'm saying corrupt scandals. And I mentioned the Japan, I mentioned PDS, etc. There was Kroll and Associates. There were more corrupt scandals over there. And the NPP should look the people of Ghana into the eyes.
So the scandal means that it was what? It was...
I'm telling you that apart from the negative economic indicators before 2021 went into a lockdown. Apart from that, the height of corruption even before the COVID-19 were also there. There are several corrupt cases that they were embarking on.
But
and even when you look closely,
who said there were corrupt cases they were embarking on? Says who?
Oh, like I mentioned some of them. The corrupt scandals that came out. There was PDS. There was a Bank of Ghana. When you talk about John Dramani Mahama, you talk about John Dramani Mahama. They've not certified that the bus branding.
Did any court say it was corrupt?
Let me just talk to any NPP person and ask them. They'll tell you bus branding. They'll mention, but any court has not certified that. But you see,
so you just use it as campaign messages.
If they come with COVID-19, do you know that the $250 million Bank of Ghana head office they are building? You know when the contract was awarded? They awarded the contract. The board sat down in 2019. The governor of Bank of Ghana, Addison, said that if they were supposed to award the contract today in 2023, they were not going to award it because of the way the economy is looking right now. But if in 2023, that we're even out of COVID, that we are saying that we are bouncing back, and you are saying that things are bad, so you wouldn't have awarded it. In 2019, that the COVID was coming. The board sat down and decided that they were going to build a new Bank of Ghana head office.
But what we are saying, what has that got to do with DDEP?
I'm coming. You came with the COVID, so I'm just telling you that even with COVID, the COVID situation, the people were taking reckless decisions.
But I mean, our conversation has nothing to do with BOG. We are talking about payments.
I'm talking about payments of the DDEP, and I'm telling you that it's as a result of the reckless borrowing of the government. Anyway. It's as a result of bad policy decisions that they made.
Okay.
And then you made the argument that COVID-19 was part of the shocks that hit the current government, so that we can't fully say that the NPP government it's just about the reckless borrowing. But then there were external shocks like COVID-19, the Russia-Ukraine war. And I'm saying that even in the height of the COVID-19, they were still making reckless and insensitive decisions.
Okay, let me break it. Hey, you're talking for like 10 minutes.
So the Bank of Ghana issue, they moved to site in March 2020.
Okay, we understand.
Clearly, NDC, as we always say, have nothing to say. And he said
a lot. So if you said he has nothing to say.
It's a rehearsed chorus.
How is that rehearsed?
It's a rehearsed chorus.
How is that rehearsed? What he said is not rehearsed.
I'll do with it. If you listen to them across all networks, it's a prototype of what has been said to them to come and say. Don't stick to issues. Go and sing the chorus that has been rehearsed over time. Now, let's start with where he ended. COVID-19 did not start in 2019. The disease actually was first noticed in December 2019 in China. It became a public health emergency in 2020. If a contract was awarded by BOG in 2019, no one in this world foresaw a possible pandemic coming in 2019. So the BOG governor clearly in his presser gave the indication that over the years from 2017 coming, we've been making significant profits, even though we are not profit-oriented institutions.
I really wish that we would stick to the GDP, because if you go there
for the various,
let me just say, I'll allow you, but I'm just saying, if you go there are too many things that will bring.
I understand, but it just right.
And I don't want us to go off.
It just right we situate the argument in its proper perspective. BOG has made profit right from 2017. And the MPP government from 2017 never went to BOG to take any credit or overdraft from the BOG. And the governor said that we've been making profit. The idea of having a new office started in 2002. The contract was given in 2019. If we look back, we were making profit. We had some flexibility to go ahead with our plan as already started.
Trust me on this one. I advise you to move on from this to the DDP.
Looking at economic indicators today, we wouldn't make the decision we made in 2019.
Ezekiel, again, if I were you, I'll listen to me.
Whatever he has to say is the rehearsed chorus. He has nothing new to say.
Move on to the DDP. Trust me on this one. Yes.
Government, we all understand the tsunami that we all endured as a global partakers, that COVID-19 brought about serious economic recession around the world. A disease, you're talking about a disease that tipped over 100 million people worldwide into further poverty, as reported by the IMF and the World Trade Organization. So for anyone to sit and say that our problems today did not start as a result of COVID. Now, he mentioned economic indicators prior to COVID. We turned an economy from a 3.7 GDP growth to 7.3 prior to COVID. How was that economy doing bad prior to COVID? Your candidate went to the United States and gave a speech that, of course, COVID-19 has taken its toll on developing economies, including Ghana. He went to the United States, told the world that COVID-19 is affecting developing economies, including Ghana. Then he comes back home to come and say a different story. That's a typical NDC. But of course, let everyone have the confidence that, yes, we had a problem, we had a disaster, COVID-19 and its associated global trade and effect on global economy. Today, as we speak, the Netherlands is in recession. That is as a result of the consequence of COVID-19.
You know the thing with what you're saying. Since I started doing Newsflash, it's been probably like a year, maybe a year. I've heard this over. It's like an equally rehearsed line of COVID-19, Russia-Ukraine war, COVID-19. So
if you had a million Ghana cedi with you in your account and something came up in your household and you had to use that money, if you used 10 years to save that 1 million Ghana cedi and you used 1 year to squander that money, how are you going to recover?
Anytime we talk about the COVID, we also have to make reference to the Auditor General's report.
Which said?
You're asking me? You know what the Auditor
you brought it up.
No, because you see, when we make COVID and we continue to highlight on COVID, we know what the Auditor General's report said. So anytime we want to make reference, we understand you in the effect,
yes.
But we also know that we didn't make losses as much as we always sing that tune with regards to what the Auditor General said.
What was the...
whatever the Auditor General said, you are here. You already know. You are widely read. And so you know what the Auditor General said. So as much as we are delving into COVID, I understand that COVID had its impact. It's fine. We all understand COVID was bad. It affected the world and all of that. But when we dwell our basis solely on COVID, because we know Russia-Ukraine war was also there. So my point is, and we also know that we had to borrow. Let's not forget that. Let's not forget the things. There were infrastructure developments. There were other things. Let's look at even YEA. Let's look at NAPCO. All these things. Yes, government pumped money to make sure that they were able to boost the economy back. So when we dwell only on COVID and we look at Auditor General's report, then we make it seem as though COVID got nothing. COVID, we went down with nothing. You know what I mean?
The effect of COVID cannot be overturned within a year or two.
I know.
It's going to be quite a long-lasting effect, even on global economy. So when we keep hammering COVID, we are trying to stress the causative factor, that the problem of the day was as a result of COVID. All other things are consequences. And the effect that COVID has brought, it's just like someone having cancer. If I have cancer today, and I've grown lean, I weigh 60 kg, and I end up weighing, let's say, 20 kg. And today, I'm in remission. My cancer is no more. You are telling me that once the cancer has been cured, I need to gain my 60 kg weight within a month or two. It will take probably years to gain my weight back. It's a typical scenario at play here. Yes, COVID really affected the world and its global economy. In coming out of COVID, doing the path of recovery, we are not going to turn things around within a year or two. It's going to be a long-lasting effect. Hence, our constant hammering on COVID and Russia and Ukraine war. You clearly mentioned the Niger crisis. The effect we are seeing today as part of the Niger crisis is the onion issue. So when we keep stressing that anything that affects world security, anything that affects global health has consequences on our economy, people like the NDC would not believe. But clearly, from Niger, we're told to do our affairs because government shouldn't send troops to Niger to go and foster democracy in Niger. But today, we are seeing the effects. So when we sit...
No, but if government sends troops to Niger, what does it mean that, or what proof does it say that the onions will be coming? Because if Niger if government sends troops to Niger,
yes,
I don't know if maybe me, as a barracks girl,
yeah,
and growing up, I saw my father go to Liberia.
We were in the barracks together.
Okay. I don't know how old you are, but I don't know if when Liberia war was at its peak, when our fathers had to go to Liberia, and we saw how much Liberia was affected because of this.
Is Niger any better with the military intervention?
My point is, when the military intervention goes, it might not, because the repercussions after is not as easy as it seems. Buildings will be collapsed because there will be war. Before you get to the top, there will be war.
What?
Before they get to Chiani, they would have fought. Several people's lives would have been lost. Several companies would be shut and all of that. Currently, yes, we know that Niger might be having a little bit of issue with Chiani, but let's not also forget that the majority are behind Chiani. Let's not forget that. Again, let's not forget that as much as, electricity supply has been cut in certain areas, as much as borders have been shut, they are still living their lives.
The fundamental thing here is not about going to war. The fundamental thing here is about making sure...
No, because you said that people are saying government should not send troops.
The point being made is that the effect of the military intervention in Niger has consequences on us. And the onion situation is a clear indication. So what we are trying to preach is that things return to normalcy in Niger.
But
whether by diplomacy or other interventions when necessary. So the point here is that every trigger across the world has consequences, directly or indirectly, on developing economies. And Ghana is no exception. So yes, we will keep on explaining to people, hammering the effect of COVID, hammering the effect of the Russia-Ukraine war, to tell people that the situation we find ourselves, prior to these things, we did not have such situation. Prior to these things, yes, our economy was growing. I've already intimated. We moved from a GDP growth of 3.7 when NPP came to power to a GDP of 7.3 averagely prior to COVID. That wasn't an economy that was sinking. That wasn't an economy that was depreciating. But for COVID, we would have been on a solid path. And the effect of the COVID, once again, the priority of the government of the day was to make sure that the lives of Ghanaians was protected. Government had to spend a lot during COVID, providing medication for COVID treatment centers, providing test kits across the country, setting up research institutions across every zone of the country, to making sure that in real time we were testing as many people as possible. And Ghana was lauded to one of the best managers of COVID. It didn't come without a cost. Government had to give freebies to the entire country. Teachers were home for 1 year, and no public servant, no civil servant, without any work done, went home without a salary for a month. When it comes to the health sector, the PPEs government provided, the protection government gave health workers. On top of it, government gave bonuses. Every health worker did not pay a dime in terms of taxes during COVID. Where did Ghana get all those monies from? No health worker. Even
we ended up having to absorb it
during the period of COVID, for a period of 9 months plus, no health worker.
But we are absorbing it now.
At the end of the day, we all come back and assess our loss and come together as a country to make sure that we bring economy back to life.
One argument that people made was the fact that when we were being told that these were freebies, they were borrowing. Because if you lend me something and you actually tell me it's a freebie, if you give me a shoe and you tell me, Rosalind, take the shoe, I don't expect you to tell me that, I'm coming. I don't expect you to tell me that pay in bits after probably like a year, you come back to me and say, oh, you know what? I gave you the shoe as a gift, but I've realized that it's incurred some cost, so now pay. Because that is what the story became.
The story hasn't become one of taking monies from what we spent on you.
Is what?
In our country, we say, oh, the most...
You are taking the money, you are telling me that your story is not you taking the money? So what's the COVID levy for?
The most important thing then was to protect lives. At the end of the day, our lives are protected. Ghana was hailed across the world as being one of the best managers of COVID. Now we have the life. Now we have the strength. And of course, the strength and the life we have today came at a cost. So we are all burden sharing. Okay. We are all trying to contribute our little widow's mite.
As you said, right? Now we have to pay.
Now we all have to come together
so it wasn't
to work
freebie.
and bring
it was
back.
lending.
It wasn't lending.
It was what?
It was protecting lives.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, we lended, right? Because it wasn't freebie, just like you rightly said.
You always want to use my word.
No, okay, just like you said, it was lending. It wasn't freebie
I never said
because you are protecting lives. Rosalind, it's interesting that the communicators of the party and that find themselves forming the government of the day. It's not surprising that they struggle to sometimes comment on some of these things. COVID-19 gave us 21.1 billion Ghana cedis. COVID-19. Apart from that, according to the Public Accounts Committee reports in Parliament, they got over $1 million from IMF as well. Apart from that, individuals in Ghana, institutions in Ghana, contributed money. Till now, we are asking the COVID-19 Trust Fund to come and account how the monies were used. They've not accounted, but we, from where we sit, we have evidence from the Upper East Regional Vice Chairman, who also contested the parliamentary elections, talking about how they shared the COVID-19 monies. Before COVID-19, the government of the day was using about 91% of the total government expenditure to pay off external debt. When you do that, you know what happens? That means that you are almost running into a debt insolvency situation. Before COVID-19, in 2019, according to the ranking member of finance, Honorable Adongo, over there. So when you look at the cedi to dollar depreciation, even the year 2019, when you look at the agriculture sector, that was running in negatives. When you look at inflation, that was skyrocketing. Inflation over the years, from the time they took over, has always been galloping, has always been skyrocketing. So you cannot sit down and say because of COVID-19. At that same time, the government was touting all over that they succeeded in embarking on an agenda or a policy called planting for food and jobs. If indeed the way they projected,
we saw it.
Yeah, I'm coming. If indeed the way they projected it, you see, the agricultural chain is not only about planting food.
It's about,
if you're a visionary leader,
But we saw the food. They
Yeah,
we saw the food.
I'll go into details into that in one of the exports. No, I'll go into details into that.
See the food?
I'll go into details in the exports vulnerability.
Did you see the food?
What food
you didn't see the plantain. You didn't see the food being sold.
From the time they took over,
reduced to price being sold in the markets. You didn't see it.
From the time the MPP took over in 2017, the food price of foodstuffs, according to Ghana Statistical Service, have always gone up. There's been instances where that is why I didn't see the food. Where did you see them? That is why
I saw it in the market.
It's Rosalind. Rosalind. Do you remember that the Minister of Finance himself, who's contesting for presidential prime minister of MPP today, at a point in time said that we are not seeing the food because they are not able to transport from the farms to the market. Minister of Agric are not able to transport from the farm, so therefore they brought it to the Minister of Agric for people to come and buy from there.
Yeah, so
where were the food? They said they planted the food, but the food were in the farms over. The food were in the farms over there. So where were the food? The food wasn't on the market.
Metal.
The food. You said you saw the food. I didn't see it on the market.
It was.
And the Minister of Agric himself admitted that truly the food is not on the market, but there are foods on the farm. That is why he brought it to Minister of Agric.
That's not true.
So why did they bring it to Minister of Agric?
Let's clear it.
There was a reason why they brought it there.
They brought some to Ministry of Agric.
Because?
They brought some to the market because there was, the fire service at Mokola. They brought some there.
Yes.
The women were going for it. So if you say there was no food,
and I'm telling you that market women.
Unless you didn't see it,
I didn't see it. Fine. And Ghanaians, a lot of Ghanaians didn't see it, and they were buying the foods at high prices. So when the complaint got to the Minister of Finance, he said, indeed, the food are in the market. They are the Minister of Agric. The food is in the farms. So therefore, they will find a way to transport the food to the cities and the major market centers over here. That is why that happened. They brought them to the market because the price of maize, as of 2017, that was about 60 Ghana cedis per bag. Everything had gone up. So you see, it wasn't there. Just to correct some of the inconsistencies there, we cannot say that COVID-19 was the sole cause of the domestic debt exchange. COVID-19. I don't know you want to move up. The 3.7 GDP growth that increased to 7. When you look at the reason why it increased, it was because of oil revenues, and the oil revenues did not come out of the blue. It was out of a visionary leadership that invested in the oil infrastructure that added an additional oil field to them, and what they came. So it contributed to the increase in the GDP as at the time that increased from 3.7. Also, Rosalind, the freebies, you already spoken about the freebies. Bank of Ghana, to end my statement to you back. Bank of Ghana. He said that Bank of Ghana was making profits from 2017. Bank of Ghana in 2017 made a loss of 1.7 billion. Bank of Ghana in 2018 made a loss of 800,000 billion. Bank of Ghana made profits 800,000 million. Bank of Ghana in 2019 made profits, marginal profits of 1.1 billion.
Rosalind,
in 2019, Bank of Ghana report. According to Bank of Ghana in 2017.
Bank of Ghana.
I'm going to do the research. Don't worry about it.
Do the research. Bank of Ghana. I'm saying that in 2017, Bank of Ghana made a loss of 1.7 billion Ghana cedis.
Okay.
In 2018, Bank of Ghana made a loss of 800,000 Ghana cedis. In 2019, Bank of Ghana made profits.
Okay.
Of 1.1 billion, and the year they made a profit, marginal profits, that's the year they decided to go into the $250 million project. But they went on site on March 2021, the height of COVID.
Okay, that's
very insensitive on the part of the Bank of Ghana.
That's fine. What can ECOWAS do to salvage the situation?
The
Niger, the prices of food, what's it called? Onions, pardon me. The prices of onions are skyrocketing because there's closure of border. And the women are not even calling on military intervention. They are calling on the border to be open. And they feel that ECOWAS can actually have a conversation with the military rule in Niger now, that's the leader being Chiani, have a conversation with him and sit down and say this is what we want. Because let's not forget that General Chiani has actually said that all he wants, 3 years, it's actually 3 years, it's not 2. He wants 3 years rule. Not just a 3 years rule. Let's talk and open the borders. Give us the electricity. Let's work together. I'm here for peace. I'm not here, but he didn't occupy the seats democratically, constitutionally. So what can be done about it? Let me start with you, Ezekiel.
The fundamental thing with his reign is about undemocratically imposing himself on the people. No matter how bad a regime is, no matter how bad a government is, there are laid down procedures to getting the people out. If we say the majority of Nigerians are behind the occupants of the seat today, then they had no problem, they had no issue they had no cause to effect whichever military intervention they had. If you had the people on your side and you believe that those people are yearning for change, you wait till elections. And if indeed you had the support, the people, the majority you claim are on your side will definitely give you power, or give power to someone you believe in to serve the cause of the Nigerians. To have the people on your side and go unconstitutionally, undemocratically, to impose yourself on the people is never something we need to tolerate. We can't say that, yes, I'm going to turn Niger into heaven within a year, but I'll go about it illegally. The Treaty of ECOWAS, the Lomé Protocol in 1999, where the leaders of ECOWAS emerged in Lomé to find solutions to military interventions and unconstitutionality in West Africa sub-region, clearly stated, they outlined the processes ECOWAS need to embark on to making sure that democracy at every point is restored. And it wasn't for nothing. It's because democracy thrives when there's development. Development thrives when there's democracy. I don't think there will be any investor from across the world that will come into Niger to come and say, I'm coming to invest in Niger, no matter the peace the military regime brings. The mere fact that you came from the back door, you came through coup d'etat, puts investors off. Whatever plan you have within 3 years, you can't do it alone without the world. Niger is not an island. Niger is not an isolation. You have some commitment towards AU. You have some commitment towards
AU
ECOWAS.
has actually cut them off now.
Even ECOWAS is in the process. You have some commitment with the United Nations. And United Nations, per the 28 July communique released by the UN, still recognizes Bazoum as the democratically elected leader.
Let's not forget that Russia is actually alleged backing them.
If Russia against the world, Russia against UN, I don't think Russia...
Russia is surviving when they cut them off, when they went for the Ukraine war. The world cut them off, but they are surviving.
Russia on its own, if on my own, I'm resourceful enough to cater for myself, no matter what is thrown at me. If the world is against you, and I'm telling you I'm supporting you, I can fend for myself, I can cater for myself. But if the world is against you, and I'm the one supporting you, how much strength or help can I offer you to withstand the pressures of the world? That's what is going to happen. So we hope that both factions, I think ECOWAS is still treading cautiously.
But you know, people are actually of the opinion that ECOWAS is being a bit biased. When we look at recent coup d'etats happening, it hasn't just happened in Niger. It's happened in Mali. It's happened in Burkina. ECOWAS was silent.
Let's rather look at antecedent history.
No. Why was ECOWAS silent? But in Niger, why is ECOWAS so loud?
ECOWAS had made it clear that they sat aloof, in quotes, and watched 2-3 issues play out. And those things they sat unconcerned, in quotes, and watched them happen, has rather emboldened others to take such decisions or go on the same path. So at this point, enough is enough. We've had Mali, we've had Guinea, we've had Burkina Faso, and Burkina Faso again. For how long should we sit and cross our arms?
Watch it happen again.
For how long should we look on for things to happen? If care is not taken, it's going to spread across, especially in the Francophone countries. And at this point, ECOWAS is left with no option. We've had it happen 2-3 times, but we need to put our foot down to making sure that
I have a lot of
restored.
questions with that, but let me let Metal speak a bit and then I can ask some questions because I'm a bit confused about this. What is it that the leaders are not doing right that is allowing or making even the military to think that they ought to kick the leadership out and take over? Why is ECOWAS not protecting its own body? Because if these people take over, you see, like you said, the Francophone countries, they all have one concern. We want to break off from the rule of, the Francophone rule. So I'm in ECOWAS. I'm expecting ECOWAS to give me certain things, certain covering, or a certain type of covering. I come to ECOWAS, ECOWAS is not giving it to me. Or my leaders who are supposed to go into ECOWAS and speak on our behalf is not doing it. So the people feel that they want to take over. Let me take a few comments and then I can come to you, Metal, for you to have a conversation with us as well. Some comments coming in. Gyakye Quayson should keep quiet and face the law. He should have listened to his daughter's advice and not the NDC. From Ajenim Boateng Domi Pillar 2. Okay. Michael Coffey says, Metal Nunu Jr., you are too much. Hey, you get fans, so Metal. All right, let's see. Okay, so you at home can also send your messages to us and definitely we'll read it on air. Metal, your comments, please.
You see, ECOWAS as a body have not been proactive, because if you look at the reasons for the recent coup d'etats from Mali through Guinea, Burkina Faso, just like you already mentioned, there's one fundamental issue that plays out in all of them, and they are francophone countries, and they are saying that they want to break away from France.
French rule.
2, even within their countries, when they go for ECOWAS meetings, you see within the sub-region, the West Africa sub-region alone, when they support each other, the countries within will be very strong and they'll be dependent on themselves and will not even need the rest of the African continent or the world. How have they been able to promote intertrade or helping themselves as an ECOWAS sub-region? You know, obviously, that in Ghana, for example, we are importing things like onion. When you listen, they say, when you listen to the people, the onion sellers, we plant onions in Ghana. They tell you that the onions coming from Burkina Faso, the onions coming from Niger, they taste nicer. I don't know, the woman can do
they taste very nice.
All onion. Onion.
No. The onions are not the same.
No, me as a man. For me as a man, all onion be onion.
Yeah.
But the women, when you listen to them, they're saying that. So then, as an ECOWAS, where you go with these concerns that you know is on the ground, what have you done? How are you people? What are you people doing in your country? Why does your onion taste like that? What can we do over here? Come and teach us. How are we been able to collaborate inter country exchange programs to transfer knowledge or some of these things? And then we sit aloof, and then the people suffer. And anytime when the people suffer to some extent, you realize that then there's a rebellion. Some of them have been civil uprising, not the military, like it happened not even in ECOWAS, like Egypt, etc. It's been civil uprising, and some of them have been military coup d'etat, because when you have an ambitious military leader and these economic indicators, when you look at the reasons why coup d'etat happened in the past, from 1966 during the times of Rawlings, Achampon, etc., and you look at economic indicators within the West Africa sub-region now, things happening now are even worse than things that happened around that time, but they were coup d'etats. So as ECOWAS, they sat aloof. The coup d'etats have happened 1, 2, 3. They've not even decided that no, there's something really happening. Our people are suffering. What do we do to build the base? What do we do to strengthen our people? What do we do to create employment? Etc. You've not done that, and the people keep suffering. And now there's a coup d'etat, and you threaten. You don't even go to negotiate.
Oh, no, they are negotiating.
No, before. Okay. I think they changed their tone, because in their the meeting that the army chiefs,
the one they held last week.
in Accra, you look at their tone, and I watched. I was like, no, this is fair, because the military leaders, you cannot put pressure on them. More so that the other military leaders in Mali and Guinea are all saying that they are all coming to support, coming together to come and so, because if they also sit aloof and one is gone, it's taking off. One is taking off, then once we go to succeed in one, we'll go to the next one. So they also have to come together and form an alliance to make sure that they protect each other. But military intervention really has not been the way to go over the period. I think that during Achampon time, Achampon was cut over from the world. But when you look at all the military juntas that have happened in Ghana, the regime of Achampon was, when you hear they mention is one of the best that happened. Why did they say it's one of the best? Despite the fact that fuel prices were going up, despite the fact that electricity was going up, etc., there was something happening within the country, and that the people were happy. You know what was happening? There was abundance of food in the country. The agriculture system in Ghana was working. So with COVID-19, with inflation, I keep saying that all governments that have come in the Fourth Republic, one of the things that the government needs to focus on is the agriculture sector. When there's abundance of food in the system, Rosie, if I get up and I've eaten,
right?
There's food in the system, and I have to. Right now, if you're running a household, you realize that if you watch your expenditure, apart from electricity and whatever, majority of your expense goes into food.
But you know, when ECOWAS was making this decision of closing the border and cutting off electricity and all of that, did they realize that their countries will be affected as well?
I'm not sure they thought to that extent, because right now, people, neighboring countries like Ghana, the market women, they are complaining because now you don't get your juicy.
Inflation is going to go up.
Juice is going to go up.
Yes.
Because even tomato, we even import.
Yeah.
We even import tomatoes. One of your topics talks about export vulnerability.
Yes, unfortunately, we don't have the time.
Export vulnerability. So I would have delved more into that one. You see, even tomatoes, we're importing them. Now, when you look at the range of things that we are exporting as a nation, major of them is gold, coffee, cocoa, Rosalind,
oil,
and oil. When you look at and then it's to 4 countries. Rosalind, this is a country, Mother Ghana. That our land is rich. That our land can, when you plant tomatoes, it will grow. When you plant pineapple, it will grow. When you plant sugarcane, it will grow. And these are things that industries in other countries in the world now looking for. This is a country where you can have production of salt. And production salt is needed even in the oil production regimes, etc. And we limit ourselves to the easy ones because we know that as for the
since you've gone into it, let me talk total export and imports in the year 2022. Total export that things that we exported out of the country was 144.1 billion Ghana cedis. 144.1 billion Ghana cedis. That's what we exported out. What we imported is 148.6 billion Ghana cedis. So we imported more than we exported. So that's why we're not making.
Yeah, and then the range of things that we're exporting, I guess, about 4 commodities. Majority of them to some particular countries over there. But this is a country that when you plant tomatoes, it grows. When you plant maize, it grows. And people need a shea butter. Those in the northern belt that are making money from shea butter. Why do you think the white man? I was listening to one of your presidential candidates, which I think I'm in love with him.
Who?
The number one on the ballot.
Dr. Alan Choma saying
Honorable Kennedy Ejepom.
Okay.
And the business ideas that he's professing. And how his son is even in the shea butter business. And when he said that, I researched about the shea butter, and people are making money out of it. But why do you get people migrating from the northern belt, coming to the southern belt to look for non-existing jobs over here, and they come and they sleep on the streets, etc. As a nation, what have we done over the period? The whole from NDC, MPP, the agriculture line. You see, Kwame Nkrumah, that is why, you see, when you plant the food, it's not only about planting the food. I think that's one of the things that Dr. Akoto failed as a Minister of Agriculture. You don't only plant the food.
He wants to become flag bearer. You're talking about his
that's not only why.
You are come to destroy his.
But it's the truth. When you do something, when I'm talking about Dr. Baumia, about economic management, I'll speak about it. You see, when you plant the food, there's a tendency that there's going to be excess. Not all can come to the market. So you should be able to absorb and preserve some of them. We should be able to build industries because most of our products, we export them raw. Even the gold, the cocoa, the coffee, we export them.
Most of them are raw materials, agricultural products, and crude oil. These are the things that we export.
But now, we'll feed the market and realize that we cannot have storage facilities to keep most of the tomatoes, etc. Let's get a tomato processing factory so that we process them, that when we export them, we get a higher income on them. But if we keep exporting them raw, even the rosewood, when they cut the rosewood and the timber and things from our market, our forest here, and they send them out, we import them back as furniture at higher prices. So what are we doing? All the government have come within the fortune. What are they doing? You see, when you are building a country, some of these things, you take the politics out of it. If the agriculture sector in this country was well booming and all these things were working, whether COVID, whether fuel prices or whatever, the shocks were not going to affect us. But because we're not doing that, any little shock affects the economy.
All right. Ezekiel?
Yes, agriculture has been the backbone of our economy, right from JHS in our social studies booklets. That's what we've learnt. And there are still rooms to cover. I mean, looking at the disparity between export and import, you mentioned it last week, and we had a few to say about it. Of course, there are certain pointers to such disparity. Our taste for foreign products. I mean, if there's one thing that I like about the president, is the fact that he's championed African wear when he became president, and it's almost become a fashion.
Oh, but that one was championed by President Kufuor.
It was His Excellency Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo had a lot to do.
You know that when it comes to that, the champion was more of President
But moving away from it. I mean, we still need to change our taste as a people. The local rice industry, for instance, for some time now, has seen some significant gains. And that we've had a lot of individuals going into selling local rice. And those who consume local rice can attest to the fact that it even tastes nicer. And if you look at the medical aspect of it, the nutritional value of our local rice surpasses that of the foreign rice that we consume, for example. So we need to.
So which of the brands do you eat? The local rice?
The Voltastar.
Voltastar.
Yes.
Okay.
So we need to continually encourage people to consume what we produce in the country. And of course, then
but what about getting products to export? Because if we have enough to export, even when we are importing, we won't be too, we won't have issues with it, because it's difficult for you to change people's taste buds. It's normal. You have people we even have shops that say we sell American products. Only American products. Let's look at our clothing industry. There are so many people who are buying clothes that are from abroad. Reason being that they'll tell you that the ones locally produced, some of them are too expensive, I can't afford it. So how do we make things? How do we, like what Metal said, today I'm stealing your words, like what he said, how do we create something that we can export so that we have more exportation as compared to more importation? Because it might be difficult to reduce the importation.
So the fundamental thing, as I said, if our taste is changed and I'm importing, let's say...
How do you change my taste? Me, I've grown up, I've been eating Horlicks, so you're telling me you're coming to change my taste. Why don't we do more exporting?
The fundamental thing is that if Nono has money to import frozen chicken, and we are eating locally manufactured chicken, for example, and Nuni realizes that there is a chase for locally, manufactured, in quote, chicken, he will be forced to invest his money locally. So if our taste bud is changed, that's the starting point. We will all be consuming what we produce locally, and that will force the investors. That will force investors to put their monies into production locally.
But one thing again, talking about the locally made, should I say, produced or red chicken, they're expensive.
For example made. Of course, successive government, as is mentioned, we all need to make conscious effort to making sure that there's enabling environment for our locally, investors, local investors to produce as much as we can. And then moving on, if you look at the trading, indices that came up, the trading amongst other African countries yielded about 13 billion cedis or so. That's one of the few disparities we had where our imports actually was lower than our exports. So what does that tell us? We need to look at the African market. And that is where the African free trade continental area comes in. But if we keep having such issues in our neighboring countries, if we keep having security issues, how are we as Africans going to have the freedom to move in terms of humans? How are we going to have the freedom to move in terms of materials across our country?
Okay.
But if our locally or African markets are strong and we have systems in place to making sure that we are moving freely and we are trading freely amongst ourselves, we will be able to produce a lot locally manufactured or African manufactured goods and be able to consume a lot, and that will bring money as compared to the imports from outside to even help us do more to export. All
right, thank you so much. Let's talk about tariffs, utility tariffs going up briefly. We know that water is going up by 1% plus, and then also electricity by 4% plus. Now, another thing we've been told is that it's not everybody that's going to affect, especially the SMEs. It's more of a certain class of people. But of course, it will trickle down whether we like it or not. Ian Metal, know your take on it.
When you talk about a certain class, I listen clearly to them, and they say that people who consume between 0 to about 30.
50.
30. Is it 50?
Yeah.
Okay, I 30. So whether 30 or 50, people consume between 0 to about 50 kilowatts of power. They are the lifeline people. So that's somebody who uses about 3 bulbs in the house and uses iron for about 1 hour. And then what again? They measure something. Take a barber shop. Barber shop, the machine is on almost about, if 24 hours, is on for about 19.
TV is on.
19 hours. TV is on. Air condition is on. So obviously they are out of the lifeline. You take the salons that they are talking about. Salons, even they put on the thing you put it in the dryer. You know the amount of electricity consumed. So obviously they are out of it. See, and they are saying that every 3 months it's still going to go up. That's one of the IMF conditionalities. We will just tell Ghanaians that they should embrace themselves for more hardship. I've listened to the drivers union that are saying that because of increment in these tariffs, they want to increase their fares. But that one, I think they need to be controlled, because I don't think any of our commercial cars is running on electricity currently. It's on crude. So when the oil goes up, they can talk about their
prices have gone up though.
They should have done that. But if you are saying on the basis why you want to increase is because of the increment in electricity tariff, that's what I'm saying. Us every 3 months we are going to suffer. And salaries are not really going up like that. Already we are dying. The hardship in the system is skyrocketing, and Ghanaians are suffering. I'm suffering, teachers are suffering, nurses are suffering, doctors are media people are suffering, everybody in Ghana is suffering.
Currently, what we have to probably do as Ghanaians is brace ourselves that every 3 months we might experience some tariff increment.
But what are the technology? Ministry that's what I'm saying. But what are the technology people doing? You see, God has blessed us with excessive sunshine. Why don't we invest more in solar? If you see somebody using a solar panel, the person is an extremely rich person. Solar panel, it's an extremely rich person. If we think that most of the consumption of electricity is putting pressure on the national grid, etc., why don't we subsidize for people to be able to procure more solar panels and use them at home? It reduces the pressure on the national grid, etc. But if you want to use solar in this country, they're a rich person. So you see, as a country, and as a Ministry of Energy, that's why they are there. That's why the technocrats are there. They should look at some of these things, why we can use renewable energy, not only the thermal. But look at the whole world now, everybody is focusing on thermal. Even the hydro, we are moving away. But the solar over there, there are wind mills over there, etc. Let's look at them. Malaysia came to learn oil, palm stuff from them. They are using some of the palm things to produce energy over there. There's this biogas technology where they are using fecal matter to be able to produce gas.
We know fecal matter actually does produce good gas though.
Yeah, some people are using that.
Energy is strong there.
Yeah, very, very strong. And some people are doing that, but the cost, I did one and then within a short time, it got spoiled. But they said that people are not really experts. Let's train most of our youth to be able to do it so that people can also use them in their homes. It reduces the pressure on the national grid. As a country, I think that we've lost our focus. And some of these things, when it comes up, you do politics with it. But at the end of the day, when the tariffs goes up, it doesn't know MPP, it doesn't know NDC. When fuel prices go up, it doesn't know MPP, it doesn't know NDC. And this particular government, what makes me scared when it comes to issues of energy is because, you see, over the period, you've not really invested in energy infrastructure.
It's okay. See why?
No, was on the right path until his last comments.
That's why I said it's okay.
I mean,
if we are allowed to do, we are dead today.
If a government inherits IPP transaction and we are paying over $1 billion every year to service IPP debt, obviously, how much can government do in that sector? That 1 billion Ghana cedi that you left for this government to come and pay every year, sometimes even up to 2 billion cedis, or dollars, sorry, $2 billion, could have been channeled into expanding that sector. But of course, you will not mention it. You will not mention the IPPs you signed and left for this government to pay. And it's part of our debt. The debt you mentioned.
The debt is how much?
The debt, close to 2 billion every year.
Okay.
Close to $2 billion, not even cedis, every year. Okay. So the debt you mentioned that we borrow to go and service, chunk of that debt is what you left behind per your IPP deals you signed. Do you understand? But of course, we need to keep exploring.
But we also know that we have signed a deal with IMF and then we have to increase our tariffs as well.
If we were saving 2 billion Ghana cedi, had it not been the IPP they signed and left, and we're saving $2 billion, we're saving $2 billion every year. How much are you getting from IMF? Okay. It must be about $3 billion. But you left a debt of about $3 billion, $2 billion being paid every year. So for the past 7 years, even if it was $1 billion, for the past 6 to 7 years, we've channeled over $6 to $7 billion into the IPP debts we are servicing. Right. But of course, I like the fact that government and the PURC made sure that the individual, the very poor Ghanaian, it's not directly going to be affected by the tariff increment.
If we add, see, sometimes some people feel it's just being a smart way of telling us that you will pay, but we are telling you won't pay. You know what I mean? Like you are being told that you won't pay, but because they are not looking at your business, they are looking at your consumption, and the consumption is not about business. It's not about what you do. So I could be an ice water seller, but because I have a fridge, it's not about my business. It's about how much electricity I'm consuming. That's how I pay my tariff. So we are not looking at, but then you are told that, oh, maybe you sell ice water, so you're exempted. Your hairdresser. So thank you so much for being here, gentlemen. We are super grateful. My guests have been E.M. Nunu Jr., who represented the NDC, and of course, Dr. Ezekiel Obeng, who represented the NPP. They have been our guests for this morning's News Flash segment. Coming up next is What's Trending. Just stay. We'll be right back. Before we go, hey, I was going. We are going to Charlie Water tomorrow. And tomorrow we are actually doing something different. So we are going to the grounds at Blackstone Square. That is where we are televising Prime Morning from. Also, you will have to be with us. Now, for those of you who are home, please make your way to Blackstone Square tomorrow. We want to have studio audience. So it's not here. Come to Blackstone Square. We'll give you seats. We sit down. We have a conversation. Come on TV. If you want to be a superstar, tomorrow join us at the Blackstone Square. We'll start at 6 a.m. So be there at exactly 6. Have a seat. Let's have a good show. Okay? We can take as many people as possible. So let's all gather at the Blackstone Square tomorrow and have our morning show from that place. Thank you so much.